Now, you know that feeling when you try an upscale restaurant and you think that it's the best of the best, only to find out that that small hole-in-the-wall food truck makes way better food for a cheaper price? Well, that's basically what just happened to me, except with phones. See, I've been glued to $1,000 flagships for as long as I can remember. Galaxy Ultras, iPhone Pro Maxes, you know, the top shelf, no compromise stuff. Then for some reason, I decided to swap all of that for the Hot 60 Pro Plus, a phone that's so cheap that I thought it was going to feel like a toy. And after using it as my only phone, let's just say that I'm rethinking everything that I thought I knew about what makes a great phone. Because here's the wild part, the stuff that I thought I could live without, barely missed it, and the things that this phone nails honestly shocked me. But there's also a few catches that you're definitely going to want to hear about before you start thinking about switching. Now, don't get me wrong, no phone is perfect, and the Hot 60 Pro Plus is no exception. After a week, there's been a few things that have been, let's just say, less than ideal. First off, it's got this gorgeous 144 Hz refresh rate display, which sounds amazing, but here's the catch. A lot of apps don't even use it. Some are stuck at 60 Hz, others at 90 Hz. And if I want that silky smooth look, I've got to manually set them to 120 Hz. It's kind of like buying a sports car and being told, oh, the turbo only works if you flip this hidden switch every single time. Then there's restarting the phone. Every time I reboot it, I feel like I can make a cup of coffee and come back, and it just takes forever to boot up again. Not a deal breaker, but it's definitely something that you notice coming from a flagship that's ready to go in seconds. Gaming was another letdown. Asphalt 9, it lagged more than I expected, and loading up felt like it took a lifetime. Don't get me wrong, it'll run the games, but don't expect top tier performance. And while I know that a lot of you guys are going to love this next part, it's just not really for me. The skinny form factor. At 5.95mm, it's ridiculously light, which is pretty cool, but honestly, I don't really find it that comfortable in the hand. Combine that with the matte back, and it gets slippery fast without a case. But still, I get why people love it. It's featherlight, and it looks insanely sleek. So yeah, great phone for the price, but it's not without its quirks. Now, as someone who has switched from top tier flagship phones to a phone like the 60 Pro Plus, I will admit that flagship cases are something that mid-range phones can't keep up with. And that's why I wanted to introduce you guys to my partners, Taurus. And as for the Taurus Q3 Air, I think it has the most unique and eye-catching design on any iPhone case that I've ever owned. The grip on the sides is exceptional. It feels secure in my hand no matter how I hold it. The button support is really good, and it has this satisfying click that makes it feels like there's no case at all. I also really appreciate the sporty design of the Q3 Air. It looks sleek and modern while still offering great protection, and like the 360 stand, it also features both horizontal and vertical stands, which I use for consuming media, and it also supports MagSafe, and it also has the shock mat drop protection that gives me a peace of mind knowing my expensive iPhone is well protected. I absolutely adore my phone case because it not only protects my device from unexpected drops, but also expresses my personality with its unique design. The sturdy construction gives me peace of mind wherever I go, while still looking stylish enough to complement my everyday aesthetic. So for that, I give it an A+. So between these two cases, I'm completely covered for any situation. And if you are interested in these Taurus cases, click the link in the description and comment section of today's video. Now, moving on from my problems, I'm very impressed with this phone because here's the thing. This phone costs around 200 bucks. That's it. And that basically means that it's sitting in that budget mid-range sweet spot where most flagship users like me wouldn't even glance twice. But then I saw the headline specs. The fact that it's ultra thin and it's almost 3mm slimmer than my Galaxy S25 Ultra. It has a 6.78-inch AMOLED display with a crazy fast 144 Hz refresh rate. And the MediaTek's new Helio G200 chip on paper sounded like a phone that was punching way above its weight. And honestly, the only reason I gave it a shot is because I wanted to see if a phone that costs less than my monthly coffee budget could actually replace a $1,200 flagship for my everyday use, even just for a week. And after holding it for the first time, I knew that this wasn't going to be your typical budget phone experience. Now, starting with design and build quality, the first thing that you'll notice is that the Hot 60 Pro Plus is insanely thin. And not only is it incredibly thin, but compared to every other phone that I've used, this feels like a piece of paper. The frame is made of aerospace grade aluminum, which gives it a solid premium edge feel, while the back is this ultra thin nanofiber composite that's 20% thinner than traditional panels, but supposedly 50% harder. Up front, you've got the Corning Gorilla Glass 7i, so you're not stuck with some mystery glass that scratches if you look at it funny. And in the hand, it's really light. At around 155 grams, that's almost 70 grams lighter than my flagship, which makes it effortless to carry around. Durability wise, while the materials are solid, I wouldn't test this thin frame with a bend test anytime soon. It's fine for daily use. but I find myself baited more than I would with a chunkier flagship. Moving on to power, the Infinix Hot 60 Pro Plus is running MediaTek Helio G200, a 6nm chip paired with 8GB of RAM and up to 256GB of storage. On paper, it's respectable at this price point, and the benchmarks also pretty much back it up. In everyday use, switching between YouTube, Chrome, and messaging apps, no problem. Animations stay smooth. I rarely felt a lag in normal multitasking, which is pretty impressive considering that I'm coming from flagship processors like the Snapdragon 8 Elite. But again, here's where it hits a wall. High power gaming performance is probably the weakest that I've seen on any phone that I've tested in 2025. Every game that I played stuttered more than I expected. The game is playable, but frame drops and texture pop-ins remind you that this isn't really a gaming focused chipset. It runs XOS 15.1 on Android 15, which brings in some genuinely useful features. You've got AI tools like AI Eraser for photo cleanup and the one-tap AI button that launches the Folex Assistant for quick tasks. There is a bit of bloatware out of the box, stuff I immediately uninstalled. So overall, coming from a flagship, yes, I can feel the performance gap in heavy tasks and gaming, but for day-to-day use like social media, light photo editing, and browsing, it's been surprisingly satisfying to use, as long as you're not expecting it to crush AAA mobile games. Now moving on to camera, on the back you've got the 50 megapixel Sony IMX882 as the main shooter, and up front you have a 13 megapixel selfie camera. No fancy tool here, and there isn't a dedicated ultra wide, so most of what you see is from that main sensor. When it comes to daytime photos, details is actually solid. Textures on brick, leaves, skin texture, totally usable. Colors lean a touch warm and punchy, but dynamic range holds up better than I expected, and in my opinion this is Instagram quality without sweating edits. When it comes to indoor photos, it still does fine. White balance is mostly consistent, and skin tones don't go alien unless the lighting is super mixed. It does smooth a bit by default, especially on faces, but you can dial that down. Something else that will remind you of the price is the videos. They top out at 1080p 60 frames per second on the rear and 1080p 30 frames per second on the selfie. Stabilization is electronic. In daylight it's steady enough for walking shots, but at night you'll see jitter and exposure pulsing. Audio is okay, voices come through clear, but just don't expect flagship when handling. So bottom line, for social media, stories, reels, casual vlogs, this is more than enough in good light. If your world is low light concerts, fast action, or you need 4K and rock solid stabilization, most flagship to mid-range phones still win. But again, for a $200 phone, the daylight and indoor results honestly surprise me. Now moving on to battery, we've got a 5100 mAh cell inside this super skinny body, and it's been better than I expected. My normal days, from socials to maps to YouTube, camera, and some texting, landed me around 5.5 to 6.5 hours of on-screen time, and I'm usually ending my day with about 10 to 20% left. On a heavy creator day, 4K clips, shooting b-roll, hotspotting, max brightness outdoors, I still pushed it to about 5 hours of screen on time and fit near 2 to 5%. But if I baby it, Wi-Fi, auto brightness, 120 Hz instead of 144 Hz, a lighter day can really stretch it to 7 hours of screen on time, and it dips only 2 to 3% overnight on standby. And when it comes to charging, this $200 phone is faster than my iPhone and my Galaxy Z Fold 7. It charges at 45 watt fast charging, which gets you to 50% in roughly 22 minutes, and a full charge in about 44 minutes. So that means a 15-minute top up before heading out regularly gives me a third of a tank. It warms up a bit, but it's never really hot. There's also reverse wireless charging through USB-C, which is handy for topping up air in a pinch. But one thing that I have observed in the later end of my week was that the 144 Hz and brightness does cost you. So if you want maximum battery, leave it on auto to 120 Hz and avoid blasting the screen outdoors all day. For me, it's been a solid day one phone, even on long shoots, and on calmer days, it could flirt with a day and a half. So if I were to sum up my whole experience, I ditched my $1,200 flagship for a $200 for a full week, and I didn't panic. Day-to-day stuff like texts, maps, Instagram, YouTube, and notes all felt fine. The AMOLED plus high refresh rate display makes the whole phone feel faster than it actually is, and the fingerprint sensor and face unlock work better than I expected. As far as battery life, it's pretty solid. 45-watt top-up saved me more than once. And although this is a really great phone, what did I miss? Well, I missed 4K video. Over the past week, I missed 4K video, that extra camera versatility, and that effortless horsepower when I'm juggling heavy apps or gaming. But again, here's the part that surprised me. For most people, this is enough. If your life is social media, messages, photos in good light, streaming, and some light multitasking, you're not missing $1,000 worth of experience. But again, if you care about all the pro stuff that most people don't really need, then I would say yeah, enjoy a flagship. But if you want a phone that handles life without draining your wallet, this one made me rethink what good enough actually means. Peace.